No one here. Hello, welcome to a video. This has been a bit of a mess up. I'm going to try to make this correct because I was supposed to be on a different link, but I think the web camera was having a heart attack, so I had to start a new link. It's just crazy. Nothing is working right at the moment. Internet is super slow. So I don't know what's going on today. Yeah, so it's is anyone here yet? No, no one. Yes, 1, 2, 3, yeah. So people, sorry, today I don't know what's going on. This is going bananas, the laptop. I'm going to try to share it again with, with correct link. So people can join in. Oh my god, I'm so bad with computers. Yes. I'm sorry for the delay today. Okay. Hello. Wait, we got people here now. Okay. Yes, it's working now. Yeah, it was giving me a bit of a hard time today. No, it didn't got traction, I guess. So this topic is something that very few of you have seen me talking before. And some people might not even know. It's something that I also get involved with. I think people should know, and it's to do with mechanical grip and like friction things, with friction with the tires and stuff like that. So it is today. I chose to talk about this topic because I've been talking quite a lot about engines, and a car is not only about an engine. Especially with someone like me behind the wheel, to me, the thing that matters the most on a car generally, it's the engine. I like a car that handles well, that everything works well. If the engine has no power, I can always address it. If there's a good chassis, we got potential to move move forward. Now, so today is good that we have more people in because today I'm going to ask you a few questions because I want to try to understand as well what type of idea genuinely people have about what happens when you turn a steering wheel, when you go around the bend, what makes the car react the way it does, what forces are applied. So then I'm going to talk as well about the ride height of a car, the roll center of a car, bump steer, things like that, because it's all important for the dynamic of the car. So, like, I would like you guys to start right on the comments. So, on a on a car, what is the handling aspect you guys like the most? You consider more important? So please start writing down, or better than that, what is the most important thing on the handling on the car? Is it the setup, so the geometry, suspension, or the tire? There's 4 possible answers. It's very complicated. So you guys please write down what you think it is important. Is it the suspension itself? Is it the geometry itself? Is it the tires? You know? So you guys start thinking about the way things work. Even wheels make a difference, but I'm not going to add that into the equation. So I'll be waiting. Meanwhile, going to face. Hey, hey, Bruno on the big screen. I don't know who Sigma is, but you always in. So hello. Attention says Amiman. Then Josh. Hello, Josh. Hello to Australia. Good morning. Um, Josh, tire is most important, I think, then setup. I would say it's suspension, but I'm a total ignorant. No one is a total ignorant. We all have different points of view, and sometimes we don't have the understanding of things work because we don't look at it. Um, Next step, we do the suspension setup based on what tires we use. That's correct. That's a very good point as well. Evening, Bruno. I'd love to add a comment, but as you know, my build is behind standards and almost everything has been changed. No, but you can still add a comment. You can. I'm asking this as a general question. It has nothing to do with the carry standard. It's modified. Like it's a general question. So, what is the thing that you actually think it's the most important? Is it the tires, the suspension, or the setup? And I say there's four possible answers to this. Four, and there's only three choices. Uh, Geometry and good tires. I changed anti-roll bars on my 2000 Boxster S to Edge transformed the car, killed the understeer, run the stock 17-inch tires and stock ride height. Next step, and the geometry also almost work in symphony. The spring rates are also important. Yes, very important. I think it is the combo of it all. Even a good setup with not proper alignment, one is not 100% the ability of the tire suspension. Correct. I'd say everything that connects to the ground tire suspension arm storage. I'm mounting LSD tomorrow. I'm very poor, so I'll write down an order I've transformed my car. Oh no, wait, no, because we don't want this yet. Mr. Get Off, wait, please. As I never drove my car on the track and coming from a Mercedes, I found suspension to be most noticeable difference. Also the fact that most people do suspension as first mod makes me assume. Flat right. Okay, we got two correct answers. So generally, the fourth option, which is the all of it, is extremely important. It's the combo of everything that defines what the car is going to be. It's pointless for you to have very good tires if you have a suspension that cannot read the road. It's pointless for you to have very good suspension if you have no tire then connected to the road. So it's the thing is, as you guys say, then you can have very good tires, very good suspension, and a very bad setup. It doesn't work. And like the thing we do on our race cars, as you know, like you might not know, so I'm going to assume you guys don't know. So most of the championships I've done in the past, we couldn't modify it. So my first championship that I ever entered in UK was quite a good entry. I started on the Radical SI1 Cup as BDS performance at the time. In the first year was a massive learning curve. I was given a book by the owner of the Radical that was called Tune to Win. I read that book 5 times to understand it better, because sometimes reading a book once you don't understand it. The more you read it, the more you understand what it means. And I needed that, so because I really like to understand what's going on. So the first year was the biggest learning curve, but it was not only the learning curve for me, like working on the radicals, was for radical themselves as well, the work team, because it was the first year in 2013 was the first year of the Radical SI1 Cup. So the second year I had more knowledge from the year before, and there's one thing that helps me a lot. So at that time, I knew that the feedback from the driver was important, but I didn't know the accuracy of the feedback from the driver, how important it played a role, and to try to translate that into the feel of the car. That's the thing I had to learn. So how did I learn it? At the end of the season in 2013. The owner of the car, because we've done a good job, the car never missed a beat. The full championship faultless. We had good results, not the ones I wanted, but to me it was just a learning curve. So I took it like that. It was just like cool for me. It was just learning more about it. So he let me drive the car. So I drove it. And the most important thing about driving that car, besides, of course, it's a great driving experience, was the fact I could understand the physics of the car a lot more. And the reason that was as important is because the physics of a race car, like a radical, are completely different from a saloon. Therefore, you can be told something, but because the physics of the car are completely different, it might mislead you in the way to tune the car or adjust the car. So from that learning process I've done on the first year, the second season in 2014, the car that I was working on won the championship. So that was my first ever championship win in UK on the cars that I've done. Then I moved away from the radicals because it takes a lot of time, and sometimes the reward on it wasn't great. And I think like it's the atmosphere in there. It's a bit different. It's not really a type of atmosphere I can identify myself with. So I moved away from it and started doing saloons. So cars that are more achievable and start working on the BMWs. I did the Kumo Cup. So I stayed with the guys of the Kumo Cup for 4 years. Great success we had on the Kumo Cup. We turned a car that was on middle of the field into a car that came and started doing all lap records in class and won championships. We had two cars, championship winning cars on the Kumo Cup. Then from the Kumo Cup, I went into to the CSCC. Then from the CSCC to Amok Intermarquee, won the championship in 2018. 2019, I became the head of performance for that car championship. So developed those cars by quite a big margin. The one of the cars that ended up being one of our race cars that we owe. It was the car we used to develop in terms of setup and everything. We in Brands, which is a very small track, Brands Indy, the car used to lap in 57, which is really slow, and we managed to get it without changing anything on the engine, just by making the setup right, spring rates, making the car just right. We made the car go down to the 54 seconds. So it's 3 seconds a lap, bear in mind, on under a minute. But the thing is, that doesn't show I made a miracle. No, only shows how bad the car was, which is the thing. So this all comes to the fact that what made me learn so much about the setup of the cars and understanding this that I'm going to explain it today, it comes from my experience. Now, as it comes from my personal experience, it doesn't mean you all going to see it exactly the same way, because like in theory, things happen in a way, but in the real world, sometimes things happen slightly differently. And it's like on engine power and stuff. There's so many variants, things can occur on very different ways. So if I say you do something on a way, all it takes is for you to not understand it completely right and you do it slightly different. The outcome is completely the opposite of what I've told you to do. So this is the thing. So this is why I started by trying to feel like gauge you guys where you were in terms of understanding what really is important on the car. And happy to see that some people understand the fact that you have to have everything in harmony to make it work. So now we start by trying to understand. Let's say we have everything in harmony. So we start talking. Give me a second. Leave these questions, please, for the later on the video. So for now, we're going to speak a little bit about the my God, gen, cannot say the word general for the general aspect of it. Okay. Then I'll come back to these questions. Okay, I'll generally give you. I'll suggest something that usually works with me. I'll tell you at a later stage. So the thing I was going to say now. So when you have everything working on harmony, so what determines the amount of grip that you're going to have? It's the setup the car has, the rubber you have, and at all times the best way to have the most grip, as you know, is having as big a surface as possible on the ground. Now the thing is, because the roads are not completely flat and like they are uneven, so the car has to have the compliancy to read the road, so you have as much rubber as possible. Then when you turn in, the car can split in, the tire moves, so the sidewall flexes, gets under the wheel. This is why you need camber, so that same tire patch still stays there for you to have the grip. Also has other disadvantages. No, the sweet spot is to find a place, and this is all on the geometry, where everything works well. So we have, let's put it this way. So do you guys understand what tow is and the effect tow has on a car? Let's just talk about the front, not the rear. So we're not going to go really deep into it today. So this is like an introduction of it. So you guys can start understanding how things work. Some of you might understand it. I don't want to be just annoying everyone with things that's so basic. Everyone knows what tow is, but do you know what tow does and why does it affect the way it does affect the car? So I would like to see like what do you guys think tow does? What is the tow? Do you guys know what tow is? Armiman said something quite interesting here, which is it's a true thing. I find that when you turn the steering wheel, I found that how the suspension handles the weight of the vehicle. Roll is crucial, something I consider wheel handling. Yeah, it's important to have compliancy. Yeah, okay. Cody Goldie knows what it is. Christopher Curran knows what it is. Okay, so the tow, let's say the car, I'm putting this way, it's like moving forward, it's the angle of the wheel. Like if they are open, if they are closed. Yeah. So when I have the wheels straight, okay, what it's called, it's zero. So you got zero toe. So it's called parallel because the wheels are parallel. No matter what you do, the wheels are parallel. Unless you turn the steering, it will change the toe. So what does it do? Well, it has a neutral behave as you expect because wheels are parallel. The car is not going to be great on turning in on like it's just going to work sort of well. But there's ways to improve it. But it all depends how you want to improve it. On a road car, usually I cannot talk from all the cars, but from all the cars I worked till today, all of them like the setup from factory, they are going in on the front, so the wheels are closed. So let's say they are doing this, like when you move, they push to the center. This is made to increase stability. Okay, so if you think you move along and both wheels are pushing the outside of the car to the center, and this is what keeps the car stable. So the car will not want to go to the sides because the wheels are pointing to the center. And as wheels are pointing to the center, the car will always want to center itself in terms of where it sits. So it never wants to go anywhere. It just wants to sit on that place. Now, other thing this has when you have swinging, the steering input, the first motion of the steering is quicker. It just turns quicker. Why? Because the outer wheel is always already turning in. So when you also give some turning on the inner wheel, it's going to react a lot quicker because one of the wheels is already halfway there, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So therefore, it's going to react quicker to the steering. Now, why don't people on racing leave the towing in? Why is it not ideal to leave the wheels just pointing in? What's the reason for it? Do you guys know? Do you guys have an idea? No, no, no. Tow is different from camber. I will come to that one later. One thing at a time. Let's grip and the steer, right? Spot on. So do you guys tire wear as well? Yeah. And the steer, tire wear. Now, do you guys know why steering out of center is affected? I believe the out of center is other thing. It's not to do with tow. What out of center the steering is the caster. Will we come back to that later? High and low speed stability, very good. Flip angle, that's other thing. Flip is when you start losing grip. It's directly related with when you start flipping, as it named flip angle, which is the angle the car is going to have or the tire is going to have. Now, the thing is on motorsport, for example, you don't use towing in for things that were said in here. So the first one that said it correct, the next step, well done. You said less grip, correct. Then straight after, I cannot pronounce this name. It's Muot. I cannot read it. Sorry. And the steer, correct. Then tire wear, correct. Tire wear, correct. So you have the wrong tire wear. So if you think like you take the car into a corner and you try to steer it, then the initial turning is going to be great. But to handle the full line, it's not going to be so great. Why? The reason is very simple. So we got two wheels, right? So when you go around the corner, you are actually doing two circles, the inner one and the outer one. Now, as you guys can imagine it in your head, the outer circle is always going to be bigger than the inner circle. This is why cars have to have differentials. So otherwise, you know what happens on a car if it has a welder diff. It tends to understeer unless you put power down and then it starts oversteering. But that's another story for another day. So the thing is, if you have a bigger circle on the outside than on the inside, and you have the outer wheel turning more than the inside wheel, what will happen? So it starts overloading the outer tire. Why? Because it has to do a lot more than what it's supposed to. The angle it's carrying, it's bigger than the angle it needs to travel through the outer circumference it needs. And then the inner one is not turning enough to move the car onto the inside. So all the load comes into this tire, and then it starts getting too much temperature, and everything starts going downhill very quickly. So you start damaging the tires. The other thing it will have, and you guys said it will wear the tire on a very funny way on racing. It just the outer side of the tire is going to get worn because it's always scrubbing the outer side of it because the tire is going like this. So the first part that contacts the upcoming road is this edge. So this area of the tire. So if you think this is the tire, if it faces the road like this, the line is going to be traced like this. So the first thing to be affected, it will generate a lot of friction as well. So it will be this area. If you have it the other way around, it's the opposite. But there's other advantages to it though. So I think from here you understood like the way this part works. It's simple. I think this is the easiest way for you guys to understand. As you know, like the car has a width and two different circles. And let's look at the imagining in your head the two different circles and imagining the outer side turning more than what it needs and the inside turning less than what it needs. So the car is going to be unbalanced. So that's the thing. Now, we could just put it parallel, as I spoke earlier. And the parallel would be great, wouldn't it? So the motion moving forward, for starters, there will be a lot less, how do you call, what's the word? It will not drag as much, okay? So would work, would be good, like in theory. Just a second. I didn't understand the understeer part. Should the toe out cause understeer? No, toe in does. When the wheels are pointing in, like this, let's say the car goes like this, goes forward, when you have the wheels like this. So the front part of the tire towing in towards the inside of the car. Towing out is when they go outside of the car. A regular tire wear is the main thing, I think. You could correct the scrub radius with accrement, right? The scrub radius with accrement, the thing is that part with the accrement only works when you turn in the steering wheel. The accrement is another thing that is the difference the wheels are going to, the difference of angle they are going to have between each other when you turn the wheel. That is accurate, but it's this. I didn't want to bring other factors to here just to explain the basics out of it because the accrement. It also is other thing is it changes how much toe it like you start turning the wheel and then this wheel is going to turn more than this as well. So it also works like that. So it has an angle of differential from one to the other. Um, so the thing is, this we're talking like on the performance, why it's not used and stuff like that, because we are more motorsport and performance. The name says it, motorsport. Um, that's fine. That's fine. Don't you worry. Just wake up. Where are you then? Australia as well. So anyway, um, going back to it. So we could go parallel, as I said. So both wheels are pointing forward. Brilliant. No drag. The tire is not going to drag itself. There's no wear. Now, why isn't it great like on the performance? Why? Like when you go on the track, for example, why not ideal? Now, on the road, bear in mind, me personally, and this goes to the person that was asking earlier, like to give like values for the yes, active toe while cornering. Well, that would be amazing. So this goes to you. Camber toe numbers you suggest for fast road use for 36. So in terms of toe, on a fast road setup, I suggest 0 on the front, so parallel. Why? Because it has the best compromise. So parallel, you will have more grip during the corner than if you are swinging. The steering input, so the response of the steering is going to be slightly slower, but in most cases it's not even noticeable. But you're going to notice the increase of torque, not torque, sorry, increase of grip mid-corner to end corner. So the thing is, you need to probably turn in a little bit more sharper because you're not going to have the wheels having as quick reaction as they would have if they were towing in. But then after that, the car will handle it more naturally. That's because the angle now, if you look at it, like when you have the two circles, it's going to be closer to what it needs to be. So therefore, it works. It works. You're selling sweatshirts. I might do soon, but anyway. So it will behave better around because like it will just have a closer angle to what it needs to have. The other thing is the problem with this, like it depends how much camber you have as well, which that's other thing. It will tend to follow the road a little bit more. Where you're going to notice the car isn't as stable, for example, when you brake really hard, when you really lean on the brakes and you have uneven surfaces, you start noticing the car is not as stable on braking. All because as I explained earlier, when you have towing in, the car pushes towards the center, and now it just wants to. It just it does, if it has to do this, it will do because the wheels are not pushing towards the center, just going forward. You apply a force like to unsettle the car side to side, it will have less resistance because it doesn't want to center itself. It wants to go straight, but it doesn't have the same force to center it. So it's easier to upset it. Still works really well. Now, on the motorsport application, on I would, all the cars I do, they have towing out. The value, it depends from driver to driver. It's not something that is like I can tell you a good setup, but then it might not work with you. This is the thing. Each driver has their own driving style, therefore they have their own setup. And I've set so many cars so differently that it's just whatever the driver wants to drive, the way he wants to drive. But anyway, the on racing we use towing out. Towing out, why? Because it depends on the track as well. If the track is with loads of tight corners and low speed corners, we don't. Okay, it might have a different setup. I'm not going to start telling everything about all the setups I do because it's not really ideal for me. But so depending on the track, it might do. But general rule, like a rule of thumb, I would say like they all have towing out, so the wheels are pointing out. Now, this will make the steering feel less responsive. Okay, so you'll have to be slightly sharper on the wheel as a driver, but the big the big upside of it is the fact the car is going to hold a line far better than what it would with just a zero. Now, the thing is you can also go too much, and then you start losing more than what you gain. So you have to find the ideal compromise where you want to do the tow, and then of course this comes down to the way you drive and the other series of other factors. The, the downside of having tow out, if it's like on a fast road car, you start wearing the tires on the inside because the tires now are like this, and the first area of contact is this edge. The inner edge of the tire is going to be the first area of contact on the road as the car is driving along. The other thing it is, the car tends to follow bumps and tends to follow the inclination of the roads, and the road camber tends to follow it a lot more. And the worst of all is under braking, the car can be really, really unstable because you got to think the wheels are pushing the car, each one they're pushing the car to the outside, so they want to split the car up. And when you brake really hard, the wheel that is going to have the greatest grip is going to pull the one way. Then if the other one gets a bit more grip on that moment, it pulls to the other way. So the car will tend to do this. It so it will unsettle it. So bump steer will cause tow, and you try to balance out. So bumpy bumpy track, you might need to add remove, of course. But this is what I said. It depends on what track it is. But there's other things that the adding tow. There's other things that I'm going to talk about it in a bit okay? Because this comes down to other things like the bump steer, which is affected massively, and then we gotta talk also as well about the roll center, which is one of the most overseen things I found on people that tune cars. I know very little people that care about roll centers when they lower their cars, and that is a disaster. And I'm going to enter that right now. So you guys now understood what flow is, and I'm going to. This is good because Ricardo, you spoke about this on a very good time because I wanted to go into that because it's all connected, so people understood first how flow works, and then they will now understand better what it does. Probably not never gonna touch the tow camera in real world, but maybe in sim racing. You ever tried it? I wonder rally affect setup as well. Rally, I have no experience on setting rally cars, and I think on rally the setup is more focused on dumping itself than the where the wheels are pointing at. Generally, because you have a lot less grip, the car is going to be, of course, depending if it's tarmac, gravel. On gravel, I think the most important will be the damping, really precise. The numbers, of course, it's important to be for the car to be squared up, but I think it's more critical on tarmac than necessarily on the gravel side of it. Now, the going back to it. So when you guys lower the cars, for example, so we're going to enter a new area. Do you guys understand what happens exactly? So most of you, like not you guys here, but most people, I'll put it this way, it's better. Most people lower their cars and don't even do an alignment. They don't check anything, and then you drive a car that is lowered, and it is worse than what it was on the standard suspension. There's two reasons for that. One of them is people lowering them and not paying any attention to the setup of the car. The other is people lower it on suspension that's worth nothing. It's really poor suspension, and to them it's fine. People, not everyone has the feel for what a suspension should feel like, or what it should do. Some people think suspension has to be really stiff, therefore you can corner faster, and that is a huge misconception again. I always found a compliant car is far quicker than a very stiff car. So this is the thing. You need the car to read the road, and as I said earlier, you need the tire to have the biggest contact patch on the ground as possible. You got to think if the car is too stiff, it will just jump off the small irregularities of the road, and therefore is going to lose mechanical grip. Now, the thing is, when you lower the car, it changes the geometry of things. Okay, so what I'm going to try to draw in here on my little board. Let me move this. So, yeah, roll center. So, let's put it this way. I'm going to make it big. We got here, okay? This is a wishbone, okay? So the wheel is here. So this is the pivot point. In here you have the ball joint. I need to make this better. I'm horrendous at doing drawing. So in here you guys have the ball joint, and the wheel goes over this, okay? So when you have to keep the things in mind. The distance between these, okay, and the dimension that this has. So can you guys see? This light is horrendous. So this dimension, so it's from this center to the ball joint. This dimension from this center to the ball joint, is it always the same? Does it ever change? So it's a fixed point, it's bolted, and then you have the ball joint. Does this ever change? Yep. The closer the better. I'm not asking that. I'm saying like in your car, changes as suspension actuates, correct? This is a bit exaggerated, but it's what happens. So in here, just to give you an idea. So let's put it this way, okay? So we got the center here, okay? And this, we have to look at this way. This works as it has a center point, okay? And then it works around this circle. So this is a circle, okay? So a center point will rotate around that, okay? So when the car goes up, the arm is going to come to here, okay? Now, the distance you have from here to here is not the same as you have from here to here. So because you have a point from the top, that is the shock, okay, and keeps it on the same side. So in here is going to be shorter than in here. So when the arm is like this, it's at, let's call it one straight. So when it's straight with the chassis, it's at its longest point. Okay, so this is all fine. This is normally where a road car on its standard suspension usually stays at, slightly, slightly close to this, but very rarely goes lower than this. So in here you have a certain value of camber. Okay, so you guys know what camber is. Camber is the inclination. No, Ricardo, you're missing the virtual point of it. This is what I mean. Like in regards to where it sits, because like the shock sits like this, so right, and it pivots on the shock, so it does this. So the wheel stays on the same place, but it's actually closer to the inside, and this is very noticeable on the weight affects camber. This is why when you lower, this is very easy to see. You spot a lower D36, the camber on the front and on the back is different. It puts more camber on it straight away. And this is because the arm is on a position that is it's at its spread. Now, what is the problem on starting by the point that is the longest away? So what happens with this is called roll center. So you just changed the roll center of the car. So the car has a different position of moving, and what it does is, because then it starts working the opposite way, is when you really start leaning on it, you start to lose the camber. And the thing is, the more you lean on a car, the more camber you want to support it. As I explained earlier, like the camber keeps the wheel tilted, so when the tire starts flexing and wants to move, if the tire is like this, it's going to keep a bigger patch under it. Because if it is straight and it starts pulling, it's just going to wear the outside. This is a good way to read a tire, is when you see on a race car that it's starting to wear the tires on the outside, you know it needs more camber. If it's wearing on the inside, it has too much camber. But of course, you have to see other things, other ways of reading the tire wear, which is things that I know how to do, but I cannot really explain in here without having a tire and start pointing at the points. Then I start looking to see what's happening. Now, the problem is when you start, and this happened a lot, happens a lot on even on racing on cars I've done, is when we lower the car like without fitting roll center correction kits, which is something that is available. Like I'm going to talk about the BMWs. I often found like I'm putting quite a bit of camber and still is showing that it needs more camber. But then when you start adding it all up, it doesn't make sense. And only till, it was not on the beginning, it took me a while to understand it. Till I'm going to put it, till I realized what was happening, I couldn't figure out why did I have to run so much camber. It all comes down to what I just explained. When the arm goes and passes the longest point, because if I start with this marker pen, look in here, so you can see I go to here and then in here. The distance now, to be on the same level, I have to move. But if I stay here, it doesn't go. So it comes out. So the thing is, because it moves it in, it loses camber. And because it loses camber, all of a sudden you have a problem because you need to add more camber to compensate for that camber that you lost. The problem with this is, as I said, the ideal thing is to find the right combination to have everything working in harmony, okay? And then all of a sudden you have a car that is unbalanced because the solution you have for your problem, or the temporary solution, is to add more camber to cure that problem with the roll center you have. You created that problem with the roll center. So you had to give it more camber. So when you lose camber, it still has enough camber to put the grip on the corners. But that has a big downside. So when you increase the camber on a straight line, you lose the contact area of the tire. You don't have as much contact area. And like on the rain, it's even worse. It makes it really bad. And now the problem with this is, yeah, but it's fine because you come to the corners, you can recover the time on the corners because the car is going to corner better. Yes, but there's one thing you have to do in many corners, which is you need to brake before the corners. And when you have a lot of camber, because you reduce the area of the contact patch of the tire with the ground, you suddenly just have a much bigger braking distance. So you put your foot on the brake, and all of a sudden you just increase your braking distance by 20 meters. And then when you look at it, what you're gaining around the bend, it's not enough to go against like what you just lost in terms of distance. So, and on the rear, the same applies because then you cannot power down as early because you don't have enough tire on the ground. So wait, lowering the car also increases the distance of the wheel from the center. You have to see the positioning of the arm. This is the thing. And this is not all the cars are the same. So you have to look at the geometry of your car. So the ideal thing to see it is your car on the ramp at the right height, you guys use it and see the position on the arms and then move it and see if the arms are moving the wheels in, out, see what wheels are doing. This is the best way to analyze the roll center of the car. Like if you want to just look at it, the accurate way is to measure everything with the car with no load, then compress the car down, measure it again, and see exactly what's happening. So this is the correct way of doing things. It's measuring without load and then with load and see where the values are going to. Then if you find the values are going the wrong way around, means you lost your roll center. So you need a roll center correction. Because as I said, just by increasing the camber, I haven't fixed the problem of the car. I just cured it on a way that is not the right way of doing it. So the problem is not even cured. The only way to cure it is to fit a roll center correction. And the roll center correction, what it is, usually it's, let's say, a ball joint that is just taller. So what it does, it puts the arm right back where it needs to be. So On a lower um, on a lower configuration of the car, the arm still is with the angle like this, still is on the lower angle. So when you put load on it, it comes up, and then you gain camber again. So you don't need to run excessive camber. This is the way to do it. Now, on this one, there's other thing that also gets affected by it, because on the front you have this that affects camber, and then you have the other one that affects the toe, and which is the track rod end. This happens on the arms, and on the track rods happens exactly the same. They also do the same movement, but this is a more it has it's even bigger the consequence of it, because when it starts going past the point where it should be, you start to having a lot of bump steer. And bump steer is the thing, as Ricardo mentioned earlier, is when you pass over a bump and that unsettles the car. Why? Because when it moves, and the thing is, the truck rod end, when it moves and it actually has a shorter axis, the wheel is going to turn with it, because it's the same as you just flick the wheel. And this is another big problem, because when they start to go like this, the more they go, the worse it gets. So they're just starting to pull the wheels in. You understand? So the thing is, again, the way they want to work is, as I explained to you, you want to keep the circle as big as possible on the outside. And if you start pushing it in, it starts towing in. When you have it going out, it starts towing out. So it helps on the accrement angle as well. So that is the thing. You will throw everything out, just out of the window, if you don't look at all these small details. And this is all the things that are extremely important that people overlook. People don't even think about the the bump steer. The thing is, it's one of those things. It all depends where you drive your car and where you drive it, of course. Some people really notice it, some others don't. Sometimes it's not really that noticeable, sometimes it's really bad. When it becomes really bad, the cars usually are lowered to a point that everything scrapes, and some people like to drive them like that. I'm not one of them. So that's the thing. Like, other thing there is, it's bump steer correction. It exists. Our race cars have it fitted. So because they are lower, they are not that bad in terms of the roll center. They're not great, but one thing I've done on our race car to make it better, I actually raised it, so I had a better roll center than when I first started working on it. So it's more important for you to have the roll center correct than a lower center of gravity. It offsets the gain. So this is why it's better for you to have the right roll center than just having a car that is slammed. Oh, gravity is important. The slower to the ground, the better it is. No, if the roll center is wrong, you're just throwing everything out of the window. So you're better off having the car slightly higher, but with the right roll center, or as close as possible to being right. So it still is on the balance that is low enough and still is not losing throwing all the dynamics of the chassis out of the window. So this is the thing. There's this conversation that I opened today. It can be extended furthermore, but it comes down to, this is one of those videos that just with a board behind me, it's hard to explain how everything works, because certain components you guys actually need to visualize what they do in order to understand better what happens when you move something. So it's hard to follow the thought of the things I'm explaining, because to me it's easy to visualize because I've done quite a few. But you guys that might never seen it, it's going to be harder for you to understand what it does. What are your thoughts on angle kits? I seen somebody run it instead of a quicker steering rack, and it's 36. Apparently, it helps with drivability and tram lining on the lower car. It does, and I'll tell you what. Because the steering angle kit lowers the track rod end. So it goes slightly lower. So when you lower the car, it goes to the position where it should be. This is why. And I also seen on race cars people actually using steering lock kit in order to have a faster steering. So because you're changing the ratio at at the end, which is where it's going to be the most effective, and that is a very cost-effective way of doing things. Low cars are slow on bumpy V roads. Yeah, 100%. Bumpy V roads, it's where it really shows if a car is good or bad. You know, bumpy V road, if the car gets unsettled on a V road, it's really badly set up. If the car drives over on a V road nicely, it's nicely set up. Sorry, this might be a dumb question, but what happens if you keep perfectly straight axles with super stiff suspension? Well, this is what I said earlier. It's not a dumb question. It's good to ask. Means you want to understand it. Is when you have these bumps, for example, as Red Wolf Racing just said, um, the car is not going to read the road. And as I said earlier, you need compliancy. So you want to have as much contact area on the floor as possible. And if you have the car too stiff, the car is going to jump over it. Therefore, you will have no grip. So it's a total waste because you generally need the car to read what's happening um, for the car to have the grip. The suspension job is to read what's happening and for you to load the car and everything. So suspension work is extremely important on the dynamic of a car. What do you think better for a road car? Purple tag steering rack or an angle kit? Well, I never used either of them. Purple tag, I think I had an E46 with it, but to be honest, I never found the need. My 318 always had a standard rack, and I've done many race cars that still had a standard rack. It's how do I put it? I like a steering that is balanced. The purple tag is not too direct, but the thing is, I understand it's important to have a direct steering, but on the road you cannot really explore the what you can do with this with a steering rack. Or you shouldn't at least. If the thing is like, are you going to notice? Like you will notice it, but like, is it really going to matter if you have to give to the steering an extra 10 degrees to enter a corner on a road car? It doesn't. Is it going to change the fact that what is it going to make you get 1 second faster on the road? It's one of those things. I never found the need of it. I just adapted to the way it is. And the most important thing to me, it's the way the car behaves on load, not the reaction it has to. It's important the reaction it has, of course, because it's the feedback you get from the car. But what I mean is more important the way the car behaves doing the things than the first initial input. Because on the first initial input, all you need to do is to put some toe in, and the car is going to be more reactive. So I don't like a car that is reactive to the steering. I like I like a smooth steering. I don't like it slow. I like it smooth. It's two different things. I don't like super sharp steerings because it unsettles the car as well. Kind of matters in the 30 when you have 4 turns. No, yes, yeah, E30 is really bad. E30 is really bad, but E36. So E36 to me, like it doesn't really need it, but on the E30 is easy to sort out anyway. Many people have retrofitted E36 steering racks on them. What about toe-in out on the rear axle? Okay, I need to know like what car is yours because the toe-in on the rear depends on the power the car has. So E36, but yeah, but what power E36? 318 IS. Okay, 318 IS. I usually do usually 1.5 mil twin in on the rear. And camber, I don't know, depends depends on the way you use the car, but camber all round on a road car, 2.5 to 3 degrees max works really well. Uh, Z3 rack on a road car. I really like the Z3 rack because I have a Z3 race car. I had another two Z3s, but I think the Z3 rack feels nice on the Z3. On the E36, I don't know if I would like it the same way. From the things you mentioned, camber total center, do you change any of these from dry weather to wear to wet, or is it exactly the same? No, it's completely different. On a race that is raining, the setup is completely different because on the rain you need the car to be even more compliant. You see, this is where it really matters to have the car compliant on the rain. It's extremely important. You run less camber, everything is less on the rain, so everything is smoother, more natural, more neutral. It's true that the Z axle in the E36 back changes the toe when you lunge for. Z axle. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question right, but if it's what I think, I don't know. Um, but like on the, I mean on the Z, like the Z3, is this what you mean? So it's the same as the compact and the 30, and that's like if this now I'm reading it again. I'm starting to understand it. I think on the Z it changes the toe and the camber when you launch it. Yeah, of course, because the car squats. And because the way those axles are mounted, the wheels actually do. It's not. They don't move like this. The way they move, it's completely different. It's when they squat, they gain camber and they tow in a bit more, which helps. Any update on the Turbo Cayman? No. The thing with the Turbo Cayman, it came slightly early. Okay, so I have other projects before, so it was not planned to come now. It came so we could start checking other things on it, but it's there and it's not in a rush. It's something that I will update you guys when I start doing the work on that Turbo Cayman. But before that, I still have the E34 M5 turbo to do. So that will be done before the Cayman. Um, that's the thing. Anyway, guys, we're now on just over an hour of video, and I have to go. So sorry about today being late. It was really, really problematic for me to start this video. I hope you enjoyed this video today. It's a bit different from talking always about engines. I found it's important also to talk about the dynamic of the car. And as I said, this is a very light conversation about it. It can go really deep, but to be 100% honest on this subject, I know how to work with it. I know how it works, but I'm not great at explaining it. Now, on engines, I'm a lot better at explaining it because I have spent far more time studying the science behind it. So to me, it's easier to explain everything. Um, so this is the thing. So again, try to share, show these videos to people, let more people see it. I think it's important for people to learn a bit more. It would be a nicer culture for us to know a bit more, to kill the misconceptions that are out there. And also, as I said, like I really would like to get to the 1,000 subscribers. So I'm going to be honest. I don't care if it's just 1,000 and stays there. I'm not doing this for the follow. It's just so I can start doing the live videos, as I said before, on my phone. Now the other thing is okay. Let me just read this. Thank you. I didn't completely understand everything, but input is great since now I know what to actually ask Google. The thing is, you can go back and rewatch the video and try to understand. As I said earlier, like when I start reading that book, it doesn't make us dumb. It just means we want to understand it better. We didn't fully understand it. I read the book 5 times. It's just because it's so much information, like for what I had at the time. Like it was so many new things. I couldn't take it all in one go. So I went through the book like 5 times so I could see exactly what was what. And that book really teaches a lot. So if you guys want to know the book is called Tune to Win. I don't know the writer. I cannot remember by heart, but it's a great it's a great book. You guys can learn a lot from it and understand a lot more about the things I've just been talking about. So that's the thing. As I said, Sigma, if you want, just go rewatch the video. Like you can fast forward because you've seen the video. You know exactly that where the questions are answered, and you can just rewind and see it again. As I love the streams, keep it up. Well, I'll try to. Now, guys, on the comment section, please leave a subject for next video Saturday. Okay, so this time on the past video, I didn't have any feedback on the video, but I've noticed as well there was a lot less people watching last video. I don't know. It was we were only 5. Um, so let's just bring the numbers up. This video today has the most watchers ever, which is great. It means we move in the right direction. And at the moment, it's only 2 digits. I can't wait to have 3 digits watching. It's going to be crazy. Imagine everyone learning at the same time, or my head just exploding because I cannot answer everything. Do you have a set time or the streams? I do have. So the streams are Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. UK time. So this is the time for them. I was thinking of changing them because of people in Australia. Because I honestly I said this last video, but I cannot thank these guys enough. They get out of bed at 5 a.m. to watch a guy with a mustache talking about cars. So it's crazy, you know. It shows it me means this is really crazy. I get this is really nice. Um, so this is the thing. On the comments, guys, please leave questions for me to answer. Um, and it's one of those. So bring more people in. Let's bring more people in. I'm really enjoying it. Today I had a lot more people talking, which is really nice. Tire pressures on semi-slicks for wet and dry. Yes, they have to be different, but depends on what slicks do you have, what semi-slicks, sorry, do you have, and depends on the track temperature. So it's one of those that it can only be set at the time, and again, depends on what tire you have. Also, still have a new mustache. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I'm currently working on a aero flat floors, etc. I've done that years ago on my Black 318 IS. I read a book on it too. Would be curious from a motorsport. Oh, I don't want to talk about that because that's an area that involves so much. I've done some studying in regards to it recently to understand better the aerodynamics and the way the air behaves around the car because I'm building a hill climb car. And it's the hill climb cars. You guys know which car it is. It's the 1 Series. So yeah, that's the future of that car. It now has a new bumper. I haven't posted a picture of it with no fog lights, a completely different bumper. It's not doesn't even usually come on the E87s. It's from a different 1 Series. There's no big vent, nothing. It's plain simple, and the point of it is just to increase slightly the aerodynamic efficiency of the car. But every little helps. This is why it was done. Carol Smith, tune to in. Yes, James, spot on. Mr. James Ford, I haven't seen you in a long time. You are due a visit. I know now we cannot because it's locked down, but as soon as this lockdown ends, see if you turn up. You have the 116 to drive. So, guys, this guy is James Ford. Is our race driver. He drives our race cars, help us developing them. Great guy to know as well. Knows a bomb about driving them and understands quite a lot about driving. So a question for you guys, as we now 18 in here, would you guys like to see me with James, this race driver, doing a video talking about driving experience and stuff like that? What do you think? Talk about BMW Euros again. It's not something I really like to talk about the Euro side of it. It's not an area that I'm fully comfortable talking about. Don't forget to leave a like, guys. More more than the knowledge, at least for the mustache. Yeah, of course. Yes, big time. Yes, I approve. James, if you are there still, do you know what this means? You have to come and do a video with me. Okay? So let's let this lockdown end, and it will be it will be amazing. I would like to hear from the ZC driver too. I can get him in as well, but James, I was working with both. James is an easier person to get. Um, so yeah, James is up to it, so that's fine. We're going to have a race driver with me sitting beside here, and actually get on really well, which is a good thing. It's so it's going to be good fun. You guys are going to enjoy, I think, the banter between me and him as well. Um, can you do a walk around on cars you're working on? Yes, you know this thing you just asked, SR. This is the main reason why I want to get the over 1,000 subscribers is so I can really grab my phone and do a live walking around the workshop, do a workshop tour with you guys, show the exciting things we're doing, developing. I'm not as active at the moment on Instagram, and you guys might notice that times that I'm not as active on Instagram, it's only because I'm busy developing and working on top secret stuff. So things I don't want to share till they are fully done, and I cannot be posting about it. Like this week, I was not as active as usually. Usually, I try to put two posts. Like today, I went back to it, but on the previous days, I was not really showing a lot. And this is when I'm developing and studying a new product. So it's always exciting when that happens. It means there's something new coming up. Um, so, hi Bruno, can you advertise the live streams more on the Facebook page M42? Look, Jody, I can, but I have a feeling most people in there hate me, but they hate me with a passion, that generally, because they think I'm a very, I believe they think I'm very arrogant and I don't, everything I say has to be bad. It's not really like that, but there's so much misinformation on that group that it's crazy. And the things just, that group keeps on going on circles. Always the same thing. It's always to do colon plug, ITBs, 2.1 strokers. It's nothing new. Keeps on. It's boring, which is sad because people could do something different. I'm there because I don't even post the things I do in there anymore because I don't even know what people are going to think of it. Because there people are not accepting different people because I do things differently. Just because I don't use ITBs or do 2.1 strokers, apparently it's not right. It's not cool. But I'm okay with that. It's what it is. Um, can you call her? No, I'm sure there are a lot of E36 and 318IS drivers here looking to get everything out of their cars. Maybe you can talk a bit about that next video. Yes, I have an idea for a video, but it has to be on a live. I want to stage one tune. I used to do not stage one, sorry, stage two. I don't do many nowadays. I almost don't do them. It's something really simple, and I would like to show you guys what needs to be done, so you guys could do it and you could enjoy the results. I'm not going to give exactly everything I do on our stage two. I think it wouldn't be fair for me, but to the things that actually you will feel like if you do the complete thing, you'll feel it a lot. But just certain things that you can do that it makes a difference, and it's not a lot of work to do. Oh, Gandhi, you might have a lit touch paper. I don't know what that means, but I don't need to. I say this because in Canada, 31HIS gets beat up by 6 bots in a straight line all the time. They do, and it will do, unless it's done some more significant amount of work to the engine. My 318IS used to beat the 6 cylinders big time, and I have plenty of videos proving it. But it has quite a lot of time spent under the bonnet. It's not, and it's not cheap to do. That's the thing. But to me, I said this on last video, is all about the BHP per weight of the engine itself. So I don't care. It's more expensive, but to me it's better power. The dimmer guy that helped me buy 300 AS told me to do a 2.1 stroker indeed. It's not my thing at all. It's really, it's people want to do it, but for me, it's a no. I like to be different again. I can make the same power on 1.9. I proved it over and over again. So anyway, it's not needed. It's just so unnecessary. The amount of work people go through to make a little bit more power. And remember one thing, guys. It's like this. It's 90% of power on the head, 10% of the power on the block. You understand? So you go to point one, you're going to gain what, 10%? That's it. As simple as that. And you have to go really balls out to get it. So if changing the anti-roll bars from standard 318 scoop, what run thickness? You see, this is a funny one. This is from my experience. I don't change anti-roll bars. I leave them standard. You got to think at one thing. They are important because it's to do with the body roll. But at the same time, you want suspension to work as independent as possible. So instead of just having a stiffer anti-roll bar, why don't you just put the right spring rate on it? You see, the problem might be the spring rate and not the anti-roll bar. This is the thing. This is the way I see it. Unit AS front anti-roll bar is thicker than M3. Yes, but this is a big but. They have a completely different anchor point. So the 318 AS attaches to the arm, and the M3 attaches to the shock itself. The leverage is completely different. Remember that the force isn't applied the same way. On the arm, it's applied with a multiplication force. On the shock, it's direct. So you have a multiplication of to work how much more force is applied. It's easy. So you measure the distance between the pivot point of the anti-roll bar and the inner the how you call it, inner ball joint, and then the distance between the anchorage point and the outer ball joint. And then you see how many times bigger one side is, and then you have the ratio. It's going to be 1.7 most likely, but it's around that. This is the only reason why it's thicker. So bear that in mind. Because it's thicker doesn't mean it's going to be stiffer, because they have different anchorage points. I don't like to use anti-roll bars in the front at all. Drift cars, yes, on drift cars it's normal, but you need to have some sort of anti-roll bar. There's I've tried with no anti-roll bar at all, and I didn't cope with it that well. Or I didn't have suspension good enough to cope with it, but I didn't really enjoy it. Anyway, guys, enough for today. You guys had enough of my time. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, share. Please do a share. Let's get subscribers. Let's do live videos on the workshop floor. It will be amazing. I want to do lives while I'm on the dyno, tuning cars, doing 130 runs and showing you guys what I'm doing and the differences it makes. Let's do it. It's going to be so much more fun. Do you remove them on the wet? Yes, in some cars I do. Yeah, for sure. And the problem is springs. It will be on a coilover. It's an easy thing to do. If you still have the standard shocks, yeah, this is why you should go to the stiffer anti-roll bar. After COVID, I'll bring my car to you and you can roast it. Nah, I don't do that. People don't think this, but I respect each one to their own. I respect other builds. You know it because you have a supercharged car. I'm not a boost person, and I never roasted your car or your build. We spoke about your build multiple times. They're done on Insta story. Fingers crossed. Yeah, 2000. I think you should make it fit for stock M42s, at least for increased limits. I think 6.6 is not enough. My car is limited 50 years life. I know, yeah, it's true. It's not. They should rev to 7 of the factory on the M42s. Guys, anyway, thank you very much. I really enjoyed your company today. It was phenomenal. Spot on. Really good. Thank you. Bye-bye.